Imagine waking up one morning in a world where the Roman Empire never crumbled, that vast, sprawling civilization stretching across continents. Its legions still marching, its roads still vibrant. What would that world look like? How different might history have been if the fall of Rome, that seismic shift over 1,500 years ago, had never happened? Today we're diving deep into that fascinating what if. Let's unpack how the survival of Rome could have reshaped everything from politics and culture to technology and global power balances. And more importantly, let's explore what it tells us about the forces that shape history itself. At its height, the Roman Empire was arguably the most powerful and sophisticated entity on the planet. Its influence stretched from the windswept hills of Britain to the sun-baked deserts of North Africa, and all the way to the rich, fertile lands of Mesopotamia. Roman law, architecture, military prowess, and cultural practices echoed through the ages, forming the bedrock of Western civilization. Yet, by the late 5th century AD, the Western Roman Empire faced relentless pressure, internal corruption, barbarian invasions, and political instability. And the traditional date marking Rome's fall, the Western Empire crumbled, ushering in what we call the Dark Ages. But what if Rome had held on? What if those barriers, internal and external, had been overcome? What if the empire had not only survived, but adapted and thrived? Let's imagine that thread of history. First, political power. The Romans were masters of governance and administration. Their empire was split into provinces governed by appointed officials, bound together by roads and the law. If Rome never fell, it likely would have continued evolving this system, potentially avoiding the fragmentation and feudal chaos that followed its collapse. Without the fragmentation into tiny kingdoms and fiefdoms, the Middle Ages in Europe might have looked very different. Instead of fractured states vying for power, there might have been one who had at least a few larger centralized states under Roman influence, with a blend of local autonomy but united under Roman law and identity. This could have prevented the bloody territorial disputes, the rise of feudal lords, and the instability that defined much of medieval Europe. The Roman Senate, or an evolved form of it, might have endured, possibly growing into a robust early parliamentary system with checks and balances, setting the stage for modern democracy far earlier. Culture is another fascinating layer. The Roman Empire was remarkably diverse, absorbing cultures and religions from across its territories. Christianity spread through the empire and was eventually adopted as the state religion, transforming the course of Western spirituality. If the empire hadn't fallen, Christianity would have likely continued as the dominant religion, but perhaps in a more unified, less fragmented way. You might have seen a single, more centralized church institution operating in tandem with Roman authorities, avoiding centuries of schisms and sectarian conflicts. At the same time, Roman art, literature, and philosophy would have continued to develop without interruption. Latin would remain a living, evolving language instead of fading into a relic of scholarship. Imagine a world where Latin never became just the language of scholars, but continued as the everyday language of millions. Now, one of the most compelling what-ifs of all is technology. While Rome was incredibly advanced for its time building roads, aqueducts, massive public works, their willingness to innovate was often tempered by a sense of tradition and practicality. Had the empire survived, it's possible that Roman engineering might have sparked earlier industrial advancements. The continuity of stable governance and infrastructure could have fostered more sustained scientific inquiry. Without the Dark Ages interrupting progress, the Renaissance and Enlightenment might have occurred centuries earlier. For instance, the Roman emphasis on public health through baths, sewage systems, and urban planning combined with an enduring political and economic structure might have led to breakthroughs in medicine and sanitation much sooner than in our actual timeline. The Roman Empire was primarily a European and Mediterranean power, but imagine if its reach expanded even further. Without collapse, Rome might have extended its influence deeper into Asia and Africa, even potentially reaching the Americas long before Columbus. Roman naval dominance was formidable, given time, investments, and sustained curiosity. Roman explorers might have crossed the Atlantic Ocean. We could speculate that early contact between the Old World and the Americas might have happened under Roman auspices. The implications for global trade, cultural exchange, and development are staggering. No empire lasts forever without challenges. For Rome to survive, it would have needed to overcome very real problems, managing vast, diverse populations, adapting to climate changes, and dealing with economic upheavals. There could have been reforms beyond what history recorded that fundamentally changed Rome from an empire based on conquest to one based on inclusiveness and innovation. Or perhaps, Rome would have morphed into something more resembling the bureaucratic superpowers we see in modern times. So what the survival of Rome really teaches us? Beyond the fun speculation, the idea of Rome never falling asks us to reflect on the nature of history itself. History isn't predetermined, and the stories we inherit are often shaped by accidents of time, chance, and human choice. Rome's fall allowed new powers, like the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic Caliphates, and later, the European kingdoms to rise. Those shifts shaped the modern world as much as Rome did. So, imagining a world where Rome never fell helps us appreciate the interconnectedness of historical forces. So, what if the Roman Empire never fell? We might live in a world with different borders, languages, and governments, more uniform religions, earlier scientific breakthroughs, and a more unified global culture shaped by Roman ideals. But equally, the fall of Rome sparked a cascade of events that fueled the Renaissance, the rise of nation-states, and the modern global order. Rome's legacy endures not just in ruins or history books, but in the very fabric of our societies.